Welcome. You're listening to Sports Econ 101, the show where we discuss sports topics from a business perspective. I'm your host, Edward Brown. Well, yeah. I'm your host, Edward Brown, along with my co-host, Russell Jackman, who is still upset about the 49er loss. At each commercial break, though, we're going to ask a sports trivia question. And I know the Super Bowl is over, but
I hope you don't have football questions.
Well, this is the last one. It actually has to do with the 22-23 NFL playoffs wild card. I figured I'd just kind of throw an odd one in there, and then we'll go on to your favorite basketball because that's the season that we're in. Okay, good. So we'll do that next time.
I'm ready. I'm ready to talk Warriors the entire program if it can.
Yeah. Well, we can do that, but we also should cover some other things. 30-second commercial on CBS for the Super Bowl cost $7 million, the same as last year. Someone sent me some kind of an interesting PDF of all these kind of fun little trivia things on the Super Bowl. I thought was kind of interesting. If we have time, we'll read about that. Hey, Brett Favre said that Taylor Swift has been good for the NFL because the interest in Super Bowl is up 169% from last year. I know. I'm sort of tired of that already. I think a lot of people are.
Oh yeah, I was tired of it before the Super Bowl.
Yeah. Yeah, I think she's got one good song that I like. The other ones, I'm not even sure of what she's got. No offense to her, but I'm not a Swiftie.
Any of her music now?
No, you know what? There's only literally one song that I can't remember the name of it, but I like the Shake, Shake, Shake or something like that. I don't know, something like that. But I guess I'm a little too old for that kind of stuff. We'll talk a little bit about Mahomes also. Questions about whether or not already he's considered the best ever. That'll be kind of
interesting. Do
we have to? Not necessarily. We don't have to, but we should kind of like talk about it and get it over with. All right. All right. Stay with us. Sports Econ 101. I'll be right back. Don't touch that dial. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. Again, I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Russell Jackman. Okay, Russell, tell us.
This is the broadcast I've been dreading to do. I mean, it's like being a drowned man. You come out of the water out of almost drowning, and then someone offers you a nice big cup of salt water to drink. I mean,
not just regular water, salt water.
Salt water. Just to have to sip from the cup of bitterness that is the Super Bowl. And, I come from Niner stock where we won 5 Super Bowls in a row. Joe Montana having 4 basically perfect Super Bowls where he never threw an interception. The Niners achieving amazing greatness, being the only other team to win back-to-back Super Bowls in, this modern era other than the Steelers going back to the 70s. But
wait a minute, New England did it.
No, they didn't. No, they didn't. New England won all of them as single ones. They didn't win back to back.
Yeah, they said it was 20 years since they did it.
2002.
Yeah, but I mean, you were talking about the Steelers doing it and Montana doing it for the Niners. I mean, this was like 20 years ago. New England did it.
Was that did they win it in 2002, 2003?
Yeah, something like that, or 2003 to 2004. So they did have one back-to-back on it.
Okay, but it's such a rare thing to have happen in the NFL. And now Mahomes in just in what his 5th year as a quarterback. Has won back-to-backs, which came at the end of Joe Montana's career. It did come at the beginning of Brady's career, but he's never able to do it again. And obviously, it's not going to happen for the Steelers anytime soon. So just to rub my face in the greatness of Mahomes, I'll admit it. And what really is terrible is that 2 out of his 3 championships are against the 49ers.
Yeah.
But his 3rd title, came against Brady, right? His 3rd, didn't he?
No, wait a minute. No, Tampa Bay. When Brady was Tampa Bay, they
won.
They won. So he beat the Eagles.
What was the other?
Yeah, he beat the Eagles.
The Eagles. Oh yeah.
Eagles lost.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
he has Jalen Hurts, on his death list too. Of quarterbacks that he's knocked down.
Well, and can you imagine if Purdy hadn't gotten hurt against the Eagles in the championship game the year before? It might have been Chiefs 49ers again.
The second time, yeah, and I don't know if America wanted to see that. Purdy is not the person that I blame for the 49ers loss for sure.
No, he performed fine. He didn't throw any picks.
He had them in a position to win. They had the lead in overtime.
And he had a couple of bad throws, a little too much overthrow.
No, but when you sum it all up, he put his team in a position to win.
Yes, he did.
They had a lead in overtime. If the 49ers defense plays 75 yards and doesn't lie and just could put 4 defensive stands together in a row to keep Kansas City from scoring a touchdown. Really, when you think about that, that was an ideal scenario for the 49ers. You've got the defense that they paid so much money for to just have one defensive stand.
I've been very critical of the 49ers secondary, but I got to say that, they did a fairly good job for the most part because, Mahomes couldn't get to his receivers. So they, especially, in the beginning, the way they played was actually quite admirable, but it just seemed like this silly prevent defense type of attitude, which almost always comes back to bite you. So what do you think?
My analysis is this: Shanahan built his team and the greatness of the 49ers.
Yeah,
typically,
which, by the way, they're favored to win it next year.
I know, which is good and bad. It's good and bad. It's because a lot of times favorite team that early doesn't win it. I think the Eagles were the favorite team to win it before as soon as the Super Bowl ended. So you can see how that doesn't always work out. But my thought is this: is that Shanahan built the 49er winning philosophy off of a lot of times getting the ball in the third quarter or early fourth quarter and having a sustained drive that would take 6, 7, 8 minutes off the clock. That would keep the defense off the field, get a score, make the other team have to work hard to get back down the field and score themselves.
Well, look how well they did in the beginning, except for
the third quarter they were terrible.
I'm talking about the beginning of the game. They just kept marching down, and except for
but they only had 10 points, and we all know that it doesn't take 10 points.
No.
The magic number.
I'm just saying the way that they started the game, it just seemed like they were starting to dominate from the beginning.
That was one of their best drives of the whole game. Was the very first drive until McCaffrey drops the ball and they get knocked out.
I know a lot of people are thinking, oh, if Moody would have made that extra point, they would have won. But the reason that the Chiefs went for a field goal, was because of that missed extra point. They probably would have scored.
Folded at the end there makes me worry that they would have probably given up a touchdown to Kansas City if Kansas City really needed to get a touchdown. But my point was that the 49ers started out 3 and outs in the second half. And that meant the defense had to go back on the field, and be worn out in ways that they weren't normally used to doing. And then after the third time that the 49ers had held Kansas City, that was when the punt hit the back of the foot of the 49er player.
Which that's what McLeod, Ray, he just drives me. He reminds me of Garoppolo, where I get scared every time he touches the ball. Why didn't he just pounce on it?
Yeah, that's going to be the thing that will haunt 49er fans. But also the player, I think Tucker, was not paying any attention to the ball and where it was. And, he was simply blocking his man, didn't have any idea where the ball landed. And, of course, it hit his foot, and he didn't even react to it, So that was a big problem there. He was just not prepared and not paying attention. A good question also is why wasn't Ray closer to where the ball landed initially and that would have meant his blocker would have been further away.
And you know what? That's the other part of it, is that he seemed to call for fair catches when there was nobody around him, and the times that he doesn't call for a fair catch is when guys are right next to him.
Yeah,
I mean,
I wouldn't mind to see the Niners make an upgrade in that position. That wouldn't bother me if that's one of the things they focused on. But you see, the Niners, when they went into overtime, had nothing left defensively.
Well, and that's why I look and I say, wait a minute, there's so many guys, however many guys are allowed, on the team. Second stringers are going to be better than tired first stringers, in my opinion.
Maybe,
right? You don't send a guy out there when you can just tell they're just gassed. But
you also have to go with the guys that got you there. And
no. If a guy got you there, but he's got a broken leg and 2 broken arms, do you still put him out there? No, because he's not going to be effective.
But on the other hand, you put in a second string player and he gets beat, you get, also roasted for saying, well,
but you know what though? These guys are all professionals. Yes, there's ones that are better, but it's not like, they're sending me in there, right? They're going to send a professional, someone who's good enough to have made the team.
Well, but a second stringer is always not your most talented player. That's why everyone, and let's put it this way. Kansas City had their defense out there, and they were able to the 49ers from getting a touchdown.
That's true. Well, they had good guys at the front line to help bat balls down. We got to teach Purdy to get taller. Okay, ready? We're going to go to our first commercial break here. What Seattle Seahawks quarterback who took over the starting role after Russell Wilson was traded in the offseason led the team to a halftime lead against the 49ers in the wild card game? All right. The theme is, again, the 22-23 NFL playoffs wild card. All right. That's our trivia question. Stay with us. Sports Econ 101 will be right back. Don't touch that dial. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. Edward Brown here along with Russell Jackman. We're just talking about things that we'll remember that just would drive us crazy. And I was remembering about the 1971 onside kick against the 49ers. And don't forget Merkel's boner back in, that's what they called it, back in 1906 when he didn't run from first to second because he got a base hit. And Joe, let's see, Tinkers to Evers to Chance. So it must have been Evers going ahead and tagging him out. Yeah, you have to look that one up.
I don't remember that.
Don't remember that one.
I think my great grandfather remembers.
No, but look it up. It's called Merkel's boner. Okay. The trivia question we had.
You get mad when I say damn, but you're able to throw boner around.
Well, because that's technically it's not a sexual term. It's like a bonehead move.
I know.
It's that's actually what they if you look it up on the internet, that's what it's actually called. Okay. What Seattle Seahawks quarterback took over the starting role after Russell Wilson was traded in the offseason to the Denver Broncos and led the team to a halftime lead against the 49ers in the wild card game? Who was that quarterback?
Jet bust and better quarterback than he makes pizza. That's Geno Smith.
Yeah, that is correct. Geno Smith. All right. So, again, they're talking about Mahomes being the best ever. What do you think? It's a little early. I know he's only played 5 years, but 3 Super Bowls and the way he's done it, the first comparisons against Brady, obviously. Then you kind of go
33 yards and 66 rushing against a team that is supposedly one of the best defenses in the entire NFL. He absolutely dismantled and embarrassed Lamar Jackson, the season MVP.
Yeah,
and he mowed down Josh Allen in Buffalo.
Yeah. And then
that's enough said. I hate to admit it. I was really hoping for Brock Purdy to have that truly miracle season. And you look at like Burrow, and you say to yourself, maybe he's just a one and done type guy. Marino never got back to the Super Bowl.
And he still made it in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, but there are some times where your ticket only comes up once.
Yeah.
Even in a great career. I mean, how many more Super Bowls do you think Aaron Rodgers is going to be in?
Probably none. Look at Fran Tarkenton. I think
Fran
he only got into
Tarkenton,
one.
but he went 4 times.
Yeah. Well, no, but
Brett,
I know that, but I don't know how many times he was the quarterback though.
oh, okay,
For
but
yeah, but
or
anyway.
Rich or Kelly, you know,
Yeah. Kelly. Yeah, exactly. The
I
Bills.
mean,
Yeah.
you get your chance, but it doesn't always come around. And I mean, as I said, like with Marino, he was a great quarterback, but he only went 1 time and never
Yeah.
again. And maybe that's the
Well,
only time.
he didn't win the Super Bowl. He just got to the
That's what
Super
I'm
Bowl.
saying, is
Yeah.
that this
Yeah.
might be Purdy's only opportunity to win a Super Bowl, and it slipped past his fingers. And I mean, it wasn't
Yeah.
really his fault.
No.
I give him credit for getting a lead in overtime, and it was up to the defense. That last defensive set of the 49ers D against Kansas City is one of the most gut-wrenching things that I've experienced
Well,
as a sports
again,
fan.
I don't like this prevent defense where you just keep giving guys
They were
yards,
kicked
yards,
out.
yards.
They literally they didn't even get on the field. As far as I'm concerned, the
Yeah.
defense just walked off the field and let Kansas
Yes.
City walk
That is
into the
that
end
is
zone.
that is how it seems. Hey, let me
They
jump
put
over
up
here.
no fight.
We're gonna bounce around a little bit. So the
Please.
Phoenix Open, this is golf, okay?
Oh,
What they suspended alcohol sales due to rowdy fans, and I'm wondering if this could be a trend because golf used to be this quiet gentleman's sport, and now that getting. In fact, I remember bowling many years ago, back in the '70s. That used to be a very kind of for watching it on TV, it was very gentlemanly, so to speak. And then suddenly the fans started getting rowdy when they didn't like. There was a bowler named Marshall Holman, and right when he was on his approach, they'd be yelling stuff, and yeah, thanks guys, really classy and all that, etc. And he was kind of a guy you'd love to hate, but these interferences are quite annoying. I mean, some guy at the
speaking of
Phoenix Open.
interference, we had the streaker in the Super Bowl.
Wait, say that again.
Speaking of interference and rowdy fans, we had that streaker
Oh, the streaker. Yeah,
in
yeah,
the
yeah.
Super Bowl.
I know, and I'm
They
thinking,
paid $10,000 a
yeah,
ticket.
and you do it at a time. I mean, if it would be one thing if it was a blowout and you're in the fourth quarter, if you're going to do something stupid. But I mean, this was an exciting game, and
Yes.
it's like you suddenly don't get to watch it, and nobody saw it on TV anyway because they blacked that stuff out.
No, I've
So,
seen though on YouTube the people with cell cameras, took
oh,
footage
okay,
of it. So you
all
get to
right,
see it there. But no, I mean, we've really seen since COVID, people came back out of hibernation from COVID. The behavior in public
oh, huh,
has been
yeah,
absolutely abhorrent. It's gotten worse and worse. It's got, where, I mean, whether
yeah,
it's an NBA game and fans and NBA players are getting in it with each other, and they've had to, kick fans out permanently from
yeah.
stadiums because,
Well, look at the Malice in the Palace. Well, that was back in the '90s,
yeah,
I
but
think.
there's more, the jail that they have to have in Philadelphia in the
In the stadium?
downstairs, yeah, in the stadium they have an actual jail in there for fans. People have really lost the ability to behave civilly, and I think there's also kind of the cell phone culture of like, hey, if I
Oh,
act really outrageous in the stands, people pay
yes.
attention to me and not the game itself. And I think there's
Yeah,
this kind of
that's a
like,
good point.
I think
Yep.
there's this sort of thing that like, hey, I'll make a great TikTok video if I,
Yeah,
get
yeah.
hauled off by the security guard, or if I grab,
That's a good point.
Brock Purdy's shoulder, I throw, something onto the field or something like
Yeah.
that.
I
As
mean, it
far as
used to be.
I'm concerned, as far as
Uh-huh.
I'm concerned, I would not be upset if those people got lifetime bans from the
Oh,
stadium.
absolutely. Yeah, I
And
mean they tell you ahead of time. It's like, first of all, you don't even need to be told ahead of time. It's funny. I think about like years and years and years, probably going back almost 100 years. People would like dress up to go to the baseball game, and they
yeah,
dress up to even go on an airplane.
yeah,
In fact, someone told me
dressed up to go
that
to the movies.
yeah, to go to a movie because you're going out. There was I don't know if it's still like this, but years ago in Japan, baseball obviously was very popular, but apparently the stadium was fairly quiet. You didn't get a bunch of people, yelling and screaming for their team, or and I think maybe there was a small clap if Sadahara O hit
It's
a home
kind of
run.
the same way with pro wrestling in Japan, which is also very popular. But
Ah,
they're
okay, so
very
not you're not talking sumo wrestling. You're talking about
no pro
regular
wrestling
wrestling.
is huge in
Pro
Japan
wrestling,
and has been
interesting.
for decades. It's been. I mean, yeah, they've had Antonio Inoki, and there's New Japan Pro Wrestling and Pro Wrestling Noah, which I was associated with. They
Yeah.
have a number of feds in Japan, but the Japanese, when they watch, there's not the kind of constant yelling and screaming like you have with the American audiences. They sit there very quietly and just watch what happens. And then when there's a big spot, when a big move happens, then they applaud. But there's not this kind of like chanting and people yelling at the wrestlers they hate and say,
Yeah.
you bum
Interesting.
and rip his
Yeah.
head off and I hate you, go back to go back to whatever country you came from, kind of thing. The
Yeah.
Japanese are just very focused on watching.
Well, they have they teach their kids young, to be very respectful. It's funny just thinking about this too, that back in the the late 1800s, or actually 1800s, or maybe even early 1900s, you'd in Major League Baseball here in the United States, you'd get people attacking the umpires and players attacking the umpires. I mean, it was rowdy back then. Now that I think about it.
Well, and beer was like 2 cents, so
Yeah.
now I don't know how you can afford to get drunk at a
Yeah.
at a ball game unless you already came drunk ahead of time,
Yeah.
or you
I
smuggle.
mean, what is it, like
booze.
$20 for a beer, a
Yeah,
small beer?
yes, it is
I mean,
like
that's
25.
just yeah, and and obviously they don't even let you bring in water. I don't think in some of these.
No, no. So it's really, they have you definitely as a captive audience once you get in there. But of course, there's people in the parking lot drinking, a 6-pack, before they walk through the
Yeah,
doors. So you have some of that too, and yeah, no, behavior is terrible and it's embarrassing, and I'm embarrassed for my kids never act like that. So thank God,
no,
when my kids go somewhere to an event, they don't embarrass me like that. But if you act like that as a parent, you can be sure that your kids are going to
yeah.
act like that too,
Well, do they act so good? Well, because you beat them twice a day, whether they need it or not.
whether they need it or not. I've
Yeah.
never raised my hand in anger to my kids, and I never would.
Well, you're not supposed to do it in anger anyway. Even
Yeah,
after when you had discipline, don't do it in anger. Okay. Hey,
no.
we're going to go to our second trivia question and talk about the 22-23 NFL wild card. In the wild card game between the New York Giants and Minnesota Vikings, what quarterback became the first in NFL history to throw for at least 300 yards and 2 touchdowns and rush for at least 75 yards in a game? That's our trivia question. Stay with us. Sports Econ 101 will be right back. Don't touch that dial. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. I'm Edward Brown along with Russell Jackman.
I've taken the bitter medicine, so I don't feel so bad anymore.
Good.
At least
Good.
we got the Niners stuff out of the way.
Yes. Okay, now back to football, though. Here's our trivia question. In the wild card game between the New York Giants and Minnesota Vikings in the 22-23 season, what quarterback became the first in NFL history to throw for 300 yards and 2 touchdowns and rush for at least 75 yards in a game?
Well, that's interesting because Mahomes had 66 yards, so he came just a little bit short of that number. But I think you're talking about Kirk Cousins.
No, Daniel Jones.
Really? Daniel
Yeah.
Jones had that many? I was thinking, God, maybe he could run for that much, but I did not remember him throwing for over 300. That
Yep.
I mean,
Yeah.
of
Not
course,
bad.
this year he wish that's almost like his season totals. You know, his season
Yeah, for
total
a
was
lot of
about
them.
300 yards and 75 yards rushing. So
Okay, bringing up your favorite topic of Taylor Swift. So Brett Favre said that Taylor Swift has become good for the NFL. Interest in the Super Bowl is up 169% over last year's game, and Swift reportedly has created a brand value of 332 million for the Chiefs and the league.
I
I mean,
really hope he endorses Biden at the football when they go to see the president. I really hope that Taylor Swift does show up and endorse Biden.
well, wait a minute. Is she allowed to go? This is isn't this just for the players?
I don't know, but that's what the right wing's incredible nightmare is that she shows up, unannounced at the at the congratulations thing, and then she says, "Go Biden," and that means that the Republican nightmare is complete. So that
Okay.
I,
Well,
I had to enjoy the Niners losing.
I can't believe honestly that you're going to be voting for him. I can see you voting for RFK, but I just can't see you voting for
After that
the current
RFK
occupier.
commercial that he had to apologize for with his family, that was even more
Wait,
embarrassing.
I'm sorry. Wait, I didn't hear that. What's that?
The RFK commercial.
Oh, the commercial. Yeah. For bringing back Kennedy,
And that
the old
was
Kennedy
so
stuff.
bad, he had to apologize to his family for it. First of all, I
Yeah.
thought it was terrible. Second of all, I didn't realize it was for Robert Kennedy until like after the commercial was over, and I like thought about it. I was like, wait a minute, that isn't for John F. Kennedy. That's for
Now, was it? I know his family was upset. Did he
yes,
get a lot of flack from the fans, or from
yes.
public?
Everyone said
Yeah.
it was a
Okay.
terrible commercial. So
And
that
he cost
and the foot
$7 million too.
and the foot washing commercial were the two
Yeah, that was
ones
that was really
nobody
ridiculous.
really understood. Well, that's $14 million that
Yep.
didn't quite reach the audience it intended. So
They should have given that to you, and you could have made, I'm sure, a lot better
sure,
commercial.
I would have made something more entertaining and more informative, and kept. I would have spent $1 million on it and kept the other 13 for myself. So
Yeah, exactly. You know what? That reminds me of the joke where this guy he wants a fence built, and so he hires he gets bids from 3 different contractors, and he asks the first contractor, he says, "How much to build my fence?" He says, "Well, $3,000." He says, "Well, can you break that up?" He goes, "Yeah, 1,000 for labor, 1,000 for parts, materials, and 1,000 for me for profit." He goes, "Okay," and he asks the second guy, he says, "Well, $6,000. How do you break that up?" 2,000 labor, 2,000 parts, 2,000 for me for profit. He asks the last guy, he says, $9,000. $9,000? How do you break that up? He goes, 3,000 for you, 3,000 for me, 3,000 will get the first guy to do it. Okay. So Super Bowl Sunday is the second largest food consumption day, only behind what other holiday?
Thanksgiving,
Yes. Very good.
which is also football day.
That's true. Okay, now you'll relate to this. Antacid sales increased 20% on Monday.
Oh yeah, no, I probably ate like about 6 or 7 of them as a result of the game. I couldn't eat. I was too nervous watching what happened in the game. So I'm absolutely. And you think about it, Bay Area Rolade sales, antacid sales, probably went through the roof. I mean, the Green Bay game was antacid needing. The Detroit game after they were down 17. Was antacid creating, and then of course going to overtime.
What about Atlanta Falcons losing in the Super Bowl to the New England Patriots? That comeback.
Shanahan doesn't want to talk about that. That's like, he was the offensive coordinator for Atlanta.
Yeah, well, really the defense that gave up everything, but
it's true, and it's another symbol of what happened again against Kansas City on Sunday. It was pretty, unfortunate.
Wow. Okay, and 1 in 10 people will miss work the day after the Super Bowl, and I don't know if it's because they're so upset or because they got wasted.
I think that Monday should be a national holiday.
National holiday,
combine
yes. Yeah.
President's Day should be the day after the Super Bowl.
That's a good point.
And
Okay, and 90% more beer and 67% more pizza are consumed on Super Bowl Sunday than an average day. That totally makes sense to me.
we had a
Okay,
big jelly sandwich.
okay, so let's move on to your Warriors because
Thank
you own
God.
the team. Yes.
I thought we'd never get here.
All right. Hey, how'd you like that 3-pointer from Curry a few nights ago?
0.7 seconds left.
Yeah.
That's what Curry is really all about, but it goes under. What also goes kind of unrecognized is the fact that the Warriors run 7 out of 8, and except for an overtime loss to Atlanta, they'd be 8 for 8, and they've crawled from being 6 games out of the final playoff spot to maybe into the number 8 spot if they can continue winning here. And I mean, they've got, it was one thing when they were beating, a team like Detroit or beating a team like Washington, but they've beaten the Suns now, were contenders, and in Utah last night they beat by over 20. And so they've sort of woken up, and I think, by not trading someone at the deadline and keeping everyone on the team, I think that sort of kind of rallied the team around and has woken them up, and they understand that, who they have is who they're going to need to get to a final, to make the, playoffs and possibly, challenge for another title. There's not going to be somebody charging in on a white horse from outside.
Yeah.
And so, Wiggins has woken up and started playing a lot better. Kerr is being more comfortable with playing the younger guys. So we're seeing Podemski in there. We're seeing Trace Jackson Davis.
Yeah.
Who,
and Kuminga has come around since last year.
Trace Jackson Davis is, he's a rookie, but he's from Indiana. And a good friend of mine's son goes to Indiana and was a friend of Trace Jackson Davis before he came to the Warriors. So now he's a big fan of Trace Jackson Davis now that he's getting a bigger role on the Warriors. And hopefully I might get a chance to meet Trace JD after one of the games if, I'm lucky enough to get a ticket to go sometime by the end of this year.
Okay, so when we used to go to the games, I haven't been to a Warrior game in quite a number of years, but this when Monte Ellis was still with them. They had actually no, I take that back because Curry had he had just started with them, and the tickets were really good in the corner, up just a few seats, and they were about only like $250, $300 a piece when I got them from some guy on Craigslist or something. And then you look now, and these tickets are like $900 a piece for a regular game.
Yeah,
that's without parking and food.
When they won the title in 22, a lot of people, remember for eons, once the Warriors started winning titles, the Warriors sold out all the way. I mean, they were selling out even in their bad years. The Warriors had a hard ticket list to get. So once they started winning, it became near impossible to get tickets.
Well, and then now being in San Francisco is a lot easier to get to than Oakland.
I thought about that for a second. Just go back to football for a quick second, and that is, if you were a 49er fan and you weren't the kind of person that had season tickets, you might have paid like $2,000 to go see them lose to Baltimore on Christmas. And then probably, 49er fans paid $3,000 or $4,000 for a ticket to go see them play Green Bay, and maybe $3,000 or $4,000 or more to go see them play Detroit. And then we know that Super Bowl tickets were about $10,000. So I think that maybe since Christmas, heavy 49er fans might have sunk in $25,000 to watch the 49ers lose the Super Bowl.
It's sorry, maybe I'm just
Think
getting
about
old,
that.
but yeah, I can't see it. I mean, I like it so much better in my nice warm house where I can pause, the TV and then relook at because of recording it, look at plays again, replays, et cetera, et cetera. When you're at the game, I mean, I get the excitement on that, but in fact, a friend of mine he was actually at the Super Bowl, so I'm gonna have to ask him when he gets back today how he enjoyed it. I mean, being in Vegas is kind of a sort of a fun little space, to have it in. Which apparently, a lot of the casinos were not very happy. I understand, because you're getting the regular old Joes to go, and they don't make. I mean, they make money on that with the slots and stuff like that, but they really want to see the big gamblers. And it's possible that big link gamblers were just kind of pushed out or something. I don't know the whole story, but it just apparently
Well,
the
you think
casinos.
about this. You think about the logic. You're going to spend $10,000 on a ticket, right? To go to Vegas to go to a ticket. Well, that $10,000 is not money you're going to be spending on gambling.
True.
So the people that come to Vegas to watch the sporting events don't have the same kind of free cash that people would have if they were coming to Vegas just for gambling.
That's a very good point. And even though and even though there's a lot of betting going on, they don't make that much on the sports bets.
Oh no, not like slot machines. Are you kidding me?
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
yeah. And so people don't. I mean, unfortunately, there's so much gouging that goes on during the Super Bowl, and it's like they all these other places raise their prices, so they drain the tourists out of gambling money. So they just show up in Vegas. They see the game, and then they go home, and they're not throwing the money down like they do when they come there just to gamble. So
okay, hey, no, good point. Hey, we're going to go to our last trivia question here. You ready? We're talking about the NFL 22-23 wild card game. Wild card games. Okay.
Right.
What unique situation happened after the first 4 touchdowns the Dallas Cowboys scored? I don't know if this has ever happened
Which
before.
game?
Well, it was a wild card game. So I don't remember who they were playing in 22-23.
Oh.
But what unique situation happened after the first 4 touchdowns the Dallas Cowboys scored? All right, stay with us. Sports Econ 101 will be right back with some closing comments. Don't touch that dial. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. Last time for today, I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Russell Jackman. Third trivia question. What unique situation happened after the first 4 touchdowns the Dallas Cowboys scored in the 22-23 wildcard game?
really don't know.
I mean, it's kind of it's just one of those things you have to just kind of remember. The kicker missed the extra point. 4 touchdowns, 4 missed extra points.
Oh, okay. Wow. Yeah. Well,
that's very unique.
It sounds like a job for Moses Moody.
I know. Not Moses Moody. Was it Nate? Mr. Moody?
Yes.
Mr. Moody. Yeah. No, Moses Moody, good basketball player for the Warriors.
Yes.
All right. Any last words before we get to our thoughts for the day?
Well, you slammed Biden earlier. I do want to slam Trump in not knowing where Kansas City is for the second time in a row. In 2020, he congratulated Kansas City, Kansas. And yesterday, he tweeted out, "Congratulations to Kansas City, Kansas, to the great state of Kansas for winning
Kansas City, Missouri." Well, that's not as bad as forgetting the fact that when you were vice president, but that's okay. All right. Are you ready? Here's our thoughts for the day. So I needed a password 8 characters long. So I picked Snow White and the 7 Dwarfs.
Okay.
You like that?
I get that.
Okay, good. And I bought a pair of shoes from my drug dealer the other day. I don't know what he laced them with, but I was tripping all day. I don't do drugs,
clever.
so
that's pretty clever.
That's pretty clever. You like that? All right. Well, on those 2 clever notes,
he's got Velcro.
Yeah, Velcro. That's right. That would be good. Okay, tune in next week to Sports Econ 101. We're going to be discussing sports topics from a business perspective and asking more sports trivia questions. Thanks for listening. On behalf of our team, I'm your host, Edward Brown. We'll see you next week.
Adios.
So long.